Well, hey there, and welcome to an Ignite Press book launch livecast. Today, I've got a really terrific guy and a great author. Jim Vaselopulos is here, and he's going to walk us through his new book. And before we here it is, what we do is we help people get their message out to the world through books, the most timeless medium available, and such a powerful tool. And if you ever want to talk about your book, just reach out to us at ignitepress.us, ignitepress.us. So Jim Vaselopulos has created a beautiful book called Clarity, Business Wisdom to Work Less and Achieve More. And I've got him in the house with us right now. Jim, how are you today?
Doing great. It feels good to kind of, finally be across the finish line with this thing.
Well, and you've been working on this book for a long time. You were working on it a long time before we met, I believe.
Yeah.
When did this journey start?
I kind of always knew I wanted to write a book. That was a long time ago. And, I probably thought about which book I wanted to write longer than actually writing the book. What was the message I wanted to put out there? And I had a lot of people encourage me to write books on sales or something like that. But, what I really work with people on is bigger and broader than that. And so I kind of really thought about like, how do I really want to talk about what I do? And with conversations with clients and friends and people that were, influencers in how I think. Originally, I started wanting to write a book on wisdom, but then really it came to what is the value of wisdom, which is clarity. And that's when this topic came to mind. And then it was like, okay, if my clients were telling me they value clarity is what they get from interacting with me, I'm going to talk about how I help people achieve that clarity. And I kind of had to break it down and really think very intentionally about what I do when I work with people. And that was really good for me. I mean, I got everything I needed to get out of the book just by thinking about the topic and writing the book. Anything that happens after this is gravy.
Well, thank you. And I want to let people know here that if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, LinkedIn, go ahead and put your comments in the chat. Use that chat role to say hi, hello. Let us know if you got the book. And if you have a question for Jim, go ahead and pass that along too. And we'll try to work that into our live cast as we proceed. Now, Jim, you're talking about working with your clients and providing them clarity. Let's give some clarity. What do you do? Tell us more about your background and what you do for your clients.
Yeah, well, now most of what I do is business advising. I work with, all kinds of different firms, whether they're startups all the way through, Fortune 50 companies and their executive teams. And I like working with people to try and, see the forest through the trees and try and see that which matters most. There's so much going on in our lives, and we've got more information technology than we've ever had before. So there's so much that can distract us, and it's really a discipline you have to figure out to say, like, what is it that matters? Where should we focus our attention and our time and the scarce resources that we have? And that's what I do as a business advisor. And in many ways, people consider me an executive coach. So business advisor, executive coach, that's what I do. And one of the reasons why I do that is because that's a path I've already been down, starting businesses, selling businesses, and I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned from them, and I've had, a respectable amount of success with what I've done. So now I want to bring that forward and help people with their journey because I so enjoyed my journey.
So we've got some questions coming in here, which is great. And I'll pass a couple of those on to you in a second. What would you say, what's a common struggle that you see businesses encounter that you find you walk in and, 9 times out of 10, or maybe just 6 times out of 10, you see and you go, yeah, that's an issue. I see that all the time.
Yeah, there are a couple that show up a lot. One of them is accountability, where people just, don't feel like their staff and team is doing what they should be doing, and then people aren't being held accountable, and so sometimes even staff members aren't appreciative of the fact that some of their peers aren't being held accountable. So why should they feel this internal drive to be accountable? That's a really popular kind of symptom that affects businesses. But I think the most pervasive one is everyone's too busy. And, people are just struggling with, I don't have enough time in the day, and there's too much going on, and the world is changing too fast, and we're not staffed, appropriately enough. And, it's really a deep amount of thinking that goes into why are we too busy? But I think the reason why it's so important is because in business, we're always managing scarce resources. And, the two of the scarcest resources we have are time and money. And where do we allocate our time? Where do we allocate our money to have the most positive effect? And a lot of times we're really sloppy with time at a personal level, at a business, at a corporate level. We're really sloppy with how we allocate our time. And that is an area where it masks other problems, because it's not just, time management isn't the answer. It's, why are we asking people to do things that really provide no benefit? Or why do we have such a tightly wound bureaucracy that forces people to jump through hoops they probably shouldn't be jumping through? So, but it's symptomatic of, those are probably two of the big popular symptomatic problems people are having.
Okay, I want to share it with everybody that the book right now, Clarity, is available on Amazon, and you can pick it up there in paperback or Kindle. There's actually a special deal running on the Kindle right now where you can get it for 99 cents. And that's very limited, so get it while it's hot. The paperback also has been placed on a sale price, a launch price, and you can get either one or both there. Now, I was looking through your content there, and one of the things you've got some pretty incredible testimonials that you have acquired in regards to you and your book, and I wanted to read one of them if you don't mind. So this and that is, you've got it's a testimonial from Robert Cialdini. And so if anyone, most people watching this are going to know Robert Cialdini is a #1 New York Times best-selling author of influence and persuasion. So I'm just going to read this for everybody. This is to brag on you, Jim. Jim's book, Clarity, is delightfully refreshing in the way it walks you through the journeys of 3 fictional characters, each with a different business dilemma. This unique format is very powerful and displays how interpersonal relationships and influence are critical skill sets for business success. The format is also very impactful in that it takes complex concepts such as wisdom and clarity and makes them approachable and attainable. So, Robert Cialdini, tell us how that came about.
Yeah, people who know me know I've got the leadership podcast that I do with Jan Rutherford, and we've been doing that for 6-7 years. I think maybe we're in our 7th year. We've had the good fortune through that to meet and speak with a lot of wonderful people, and Bob Cialdini is one of them, and he's just, what a great guy, and so I actually pinged him a couple times for some advice and just kind of direction on like how I wanted to go with the book as I was writing it, and then he was kind enough to kind of give me this wonderful review and recommendation, and so but he's one of these guys. It's like the godfather of influence, and he's like a big deal. But he's just a normal, good human. And so, we just had a wonderful conversation. I so enjoyed that. And I'm just grateful and humbled by his recommendation.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the 3 characters. You set this book up where you've got 3 characters that you use in the book. What made you go with that format rather than the kind of traditional, like, bam, 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 hit you over the head kind of thing?
Yeah, I was never a big reader as a kid, and it's probably a function of being dyslexic and not realizing it until I was an adult. But we know that like people don't like textbooks a whole lot. People much prefer stories, and even though I'm a big fan of case studies, and there are a number of great professors, James Schrager at University of Chicago, that I've gotten the pleasure to know about case studies. I think that's a great way to learn business concepts, but I wanted to take it a step further. And so I created what I would call these case stories. And they're these fictional stories that are an amalgam of experiences I've had, experiences I've had with clients, and to make them a little more entertaining. One of the books that I like that's a business book is The 5 Dysfunctions of Team. And in that book, it's a fictional story that's used to talk about, having a more high performing team. And so I really like that format. So I started off and I wrote one fictional story, and I thought that story was going to carry through to the whole book. And then I was like, well, no, I want to approach this differently. So I created another character. I wrote a second story. And then I, said, okay, I want to articulate this part of the book. And I created a third character and wrote these stories. And this isn't really a spoiler, but they do kind of come together. And that is, what I thought made the book distinct, different, and elegant in a way, to see how, it's not just about you and your problems. It's about how, working with others, you can often solve your problems much more elegantly and efficiently. And I wanted to show that part of business that has served me so well through the years, which is not just what I did, but what I was able to do when I partnered up with people in good faith with good intentions, and how we all prospered together. And I thought that was another kind of hidden message that comes out in the book that I hope people take away and enjoy.
I'm really glad that you chose to adopt that format. It's funny because you mentioned 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, like the most clinical, kind of boring title ever on a book. And then I did the audiobook with it. And as a listener, I go, oh, well, this isn't what I expected at all based upon the title, because I wasn't expecting that story, that the business parable approach, basically. Mm-hmm. And so it was very effective there. And I think it's a really great training method, rather than like I said, the hitch over the head kind of, repeatedly hammering kind of thing that is really all too common.
No one wants another textbook.
Yeah. By the way, I want to share this comment with you while we're here. Carl Cox, coming in through YouTube, says, congrats, Jim. I'm so excited for you. And I know that this book is going to share your sage wisdom with so many. Just got my copy and can't wait to dive in.
Thank you, Carl.
I just want to bring that up for you. Now, there's some other testimonials I saw. You've got General McChrystal, wrote, extremely relevant and is precisely focused on a leader's greatest challenge as its ambitious title. Jim Vaselopulos' Clarity is a common sense primer on the things business leaders face daily. Every story resonated brilliantly. That is high praise. Also, in addition to General, also a New York Times bestselling author.
That was kind of special for me. And to be honest with you, when I first asked him, and I've had the good fortune to speak with him a number of times, and it's been an honor. He was kind of reluctant. He's like, I get these all the time. And, I was expecting kind of a boring business book. And when he wrote back to me, he was like, this isn't what I expected. It was refreshing because it was different. And, he said, like, I really enjoyed it. I couldn't put it down. And for me, that was meaningful, more meaningful than the actual testimonial he provided. It was like, he had low expectations, and I don't blame him. He gets probably hammered with this stuff all the time. But, the fact that it was able to kind of break through that kind of barrier and engage him was made me feel quite proud of, the effort.
No, that was excellent. So everybody, as a reminder, the book is available now on Amazon, and you can grab it there for 99 cents for the Kindle version. Paperback is also there. And I would say that this book, more than many others, is really right for using as a gift. I think that it's a very effective tool that you can share with others. If you know anybody in business or in an organization, this is something I think they really can benefit from. On that topic, Jim, who did you write it for? Who'd you really have in mind when you wrote Clarity?
It's a great question. And anyone who's a leader, anyone who has responsibility in business, I think this is a useful book. like using the three different stories because in one story we've got a character who's an entrepreneur, in another story we've got a person who's leading sales is a corporate VP of sales. On another story we've got a person who's kind of general manager of a manufacturing business. And so we've got these different roles, and I think everyone's going to be able to find some way in which this connects with them and what they do. And so anyone who's got any level of responsibility that has a leadership position, desires to have a leadership position, will, find value in this book. And, even if all you do is saying like, I'm too busy at work, you're probably going to find value in this book.
Now, I'm looking. One of the things you talk about in your book is sequencing, and would you mind explaining what you mean by sequencing and expanding on that for us?
Yeah, I think there's like sequencing is a really important component. Like, you know, I'm never going to, even when I'm working with my clients, I'm never going to say, I know more than you. I know more than you about your business. That's really not the case. And most people actually know what they need to do. It's very common for me as I'm working with people to see people doing things in the wrong order. There are things that are important, but they are not important yet. And, understanding the importance of sequencing, how events, might be important precursors to something you might do, how timing may suggest that, yeah, that's an important thing to do just a little bit later. And so sequencing is all about understanding the order in which things need to get done to have the maximum impact. And sometimes that's being a little bit patient. Sometimes that's knowing actually what the right time is for this, where you're going to get maximum impact for that particular effort. And so sequencing is about how you put that together for the easiest success. And I've told people for years, and sometimes people hate hearing this from me, is like I'm a pretty lazy guy. I've had a lot of success, but I'm a pretty lazy guy. I'm always going to figure out the easiest way to accomplish something. And the greatest way to lower the amount of effort necessary to have a positive impact is to understand the common elements of sequencing, timing, and patience. When you understand those, you can get a lot more done with a lot less effort.
And so, Jim, is this something that you do with companies that with whom you work? Is you go in and you help analyze how they have sequenced things and what timing that they've set for things, and try to smooth those out and organize and prioritize?
Yeah, that's a lot of what I end up, adding value when I work with companies is to say like, hey, that's great. We need to do that. Let's think about doing this first because here's how they connect and here's how they play together. Or that's great. I know you're eager to do this. But if we're a little bit patient, we're going to get more benefit doing it then because that's, and I'll be able to articulate the benefits. And that's, that's hard to see when you're the one in the middle of it all.
Yeah, well, and I imagine you're also facing with, facing the, well, that's not how we do it, or yeah, we've always done it this way, and this is how we've always done it. So this is how we want to keep always doing it. Do you ever find it a struggle breaking through that?
At the organizational level, that always exists. That's always there. People are, saying like, hey, we can't really do that. Typically at an individual level, the kind of people that seek my advice and counsel are the ones that are saying like, hey, we've been doing it this way. Something's not working. We need help. We need to look at this problem differently. And that's where, I can provide a secondary perspective that says like, hey, let's, we've been looking at the problem like this. Let's look at it like this. And perhaps we get a different viewpoint on everything. And many times all it is a matter of sequencing, timing, and patience to change things. It's not always the answer, but it is one of the easiest things you can do to increase your impact is just evaluate that.
I mean, I've got to think that the great part about this is that it can be relatively low hanging fruit. Changing
Oh
the
yeah.
sequence of things, right, doesn't necessarily mean a big capital investment, right? It may just be, no, let's just assign things a different priority and flow. I've got to think some of your clients are, have some pretty big aha moments in relation to that.
Yeah. I think, in the hardest one to swallow is not always just sequence, it's patience. It's like, and it's that scene that you see in like just about like every war movie, whether it's, Mel Gibson and, Braveheart or some other situation where, they're sitting there saying, hold, wait for it, until the right moment. And that's really a hard thing to do because it requires a tremendous amount of confidence in the people around you, confidence in the plan, confidence in yourself. And sometimes it's helpful to have kind of a cheerleader on the sidelines helping you with that confidence, saying, no, keep waiting. It's okay. Now is not the right time. Let's, focus on these other things first. And it's also a better utilization of, our scarce resources, time and treasure and capital and stuff like that. It's, that's what we need to manage more efficiently. And sometimes, like you said, it's low hanging fruit. It's not as hard as you think.
Well, and it occurs to me, I can see where the patience would be hard because a lot of the people you're dealing with are hard chargers,
Type
uh,
A.
entrepreneurial leaders. Many of them might be ready, fire, aim kind of
Mhm.
people. I wouldn't know any of those people ever, and so I can see where the patience would be a real challenge. I've got a question here that came in from Zelda. Zelda Fogel wrote, "Can you share any personal insights or experiences that have shaped your perspective on finding clarity in business and its relationship to success?"
Yeah, it's a great question. The book is peppered with a bunch of personal stories, and there are several of them. I think one of the ones that's just, we there's a powerful book at the begin a story at the beginning of the book about my father and an illness he had. But I think the one that talks about clarity the most in my mind is when my son came to me and said like, "Hey, I think I want to play lacrosse as a sport." And I didn't know, what was prompting that. And I was a little bit nervous that it was because he wanted to, be like his father because I had played some club lacrosse in college. And but no, he was like super crystal clear on what he wanted and why he wanted it. And he was very intentional with his thought process. And it just kind of blew me away because here's, a kid in third grade with clarity that, I don't even see in most adults. And so that was really kind of a wake up call for me to say like, wow, I don't even know how often I have that much clarity in the way I think. And it really made me dive deep into just, I was curious about that. He fascinated me. And in many ways, your children often are your greatest teachers as mine have been for me and my wife. And, that set a course of events in motion where I started coaching youth sports. And that really was an eye opener for me because it got me to learn how to break down complex things that I did instinctually and explain them to these little kids that were learning a sport. But while I was doing that, teaching the kids lacrosse, I started doing it at work and breaking down this is how I sell. And let me explain why I'm successful when I sell, or this is why I'm successful when I do projects or I implement, these initiatives. And because I was, taking the same lessons I was learning as a coach and applying them in business. And that really was the start of this journey for me, not just writing the book, but as a business advisor and executive coach.
So it's interesting as you talk about clarity and starting lacrosse in third grade. Third grade, is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah.
It's crazy how things start earlier and earlier and earlier. What a benefit your child will have from that level of clarity at an early age, and of course, right there, passions and pursuits will change over time, but how valuable. Um, but as you were speaking, something came to my mind, and that's this: many people, as they're writing their books, find that they develop clarity over their message in the
Mhm.
writing process. There's something about having to think objectively about your content and to organize it that the things you thought you knew, things change in that process. Did you encounter some of that as you were writing clarity?
100%. 100%. It was such a wonderful process for me. And like I said at the onset, like I've already gotten the value out of the book for me. I thought I was a pretty clear thinker. I thought I had some clear thinking and, and if I would present things in a PowerPoint, I thought I could organize it well for people to understand. you had a conversation, people be like, oh, you sound like you know what you're talking about. But when you put pen to paper, especially in long form, things have to tie out. They have to make sense. And especially if you're weaving in stories that don't seem to go together. I mean, like our movie that's like, it didn't make sense to me. A story has to be good. It has to be clean. And you have to hear that story on a couple different channels. There's like a logical channel of your brain, and then there's this emotional channel of your brain. And when they're in sync, it sounds like good music in stereo. But if they're out of sync, something's just not right. And so, writing a book, especially, with fictional elements, it has to be tight. The storyline has to be good. And for me, that forced my thinking to be better, forced everything about the way I approach all these topics to be cleaner and, more clear cut, and tremendous value for me personally.
Terrific. Well, how do people reach you if they want to get in touch with you or your company for the services that you provide, or for speaking or consulting, etc.? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, right now, the best way for people to reach out to me, I'd say, is go to the book website. It's got links to my business and everything else and stuff, but that's at businesswisdom.com. So it's www.businesswisdom.com.
All right, excellent. Can't believe that you got that URL. That's incredible. So, well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on today and for all the work that you put into clarity. And, I'll tell you on behalf of our team here at Ignite Press, we hope that the book is a great success for you on many, many levels. But I can tell you, we've really thoroughly enjoyed working with you in the process.
Thank you. And likewise, I enjoyed working with the whole team at Ignite.
Thank you so much. Well, everybody, if you would, please remember, get out there and go and get your copy of Clarity. Again, 99 cents on Amazon today. The paperback is also on sale for launch. Go grab your copy of that. And if you know others that can benefit from the book, please get some extra copies. I know people always joke around about things being a Christmas gift and everything like that, but honestly, this would be a fantastic gift for those people that are working in an organization, and especially those driving an organization. I think they'll be grateful you got it for them. So, and if you have a book in mind, please reach out to us. You can schedule a book consultation with us at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. And you can go there, you can access my calendar and set up a time for us to meet personally. Thank you again for joining us on this livecast. Take care and God bless.